Greetings and salutations. So, we got another one. This one was recommended by another friend. Today I just watched Nefarious. So, yeah, thanks for the recommendation. Very cool. As usual, I'm going to go over some details, so spoilers. If you have not seen it and do not want anything spoiled, do not watch this video. Also, if you enjoy quality content, do not watch this video. Anyway. Oh, man. Yeah, so, neat movie. Story basically goes, a psychiatrist is sent in to evaluate an inmate in an Oklahoma maximum penitentiary prison who is on death row, and basically he needs to sign off on whether or not the inmate is insane or not, because if he's insane, they don't execute him. If he's sane, then they do execute him. So that's fun. So he comes in and interviews this inmate. And the inmate right away states that he's not an inmate, he's a demon. So the psychologist obviously has probably dealt with this before, I'm assuming. I mean, how many people say they're demons or they're Jesus or they're some supernatural thing, right? So he takes it with a grain of salt and says, okay, well, prove it. And the demon starts... Well, he doesn't say prove it yet. Sorry, I'm jumping ahead, as I did in the other video. He starts telling them things about himself, like... just frustrated, I guess, that the guy's not believing that he's actually a demon or something like that. So he's starting talking about his home life, his mom on life support or whatever, and he signed off on her being pulled. And he says, yeah, so before you leave today, you will commit 3 murders, and that is the first. And he's like, that's compassion, it's not murder. And he's like, oh, it's the same thing to us. And he's like, okay, whatever. So he gets a little frustrated and calms himself down, sits down, apologizes for breaking his professionalism, and continues talking to the guy / demon. And then the demon ends up mentioning something about, like, he's aware that his girlfriend is currently at the clinic about to get an abortion, and he's like, how the fuck did you know that? That's like, I mean, lucky guess or what? Again, I just watched this and my brain is fumbling it up already. But anyway, long story short, that's murder too. So after this, he leaves, goes to make a phone call, and like he only has access to like the prisoner phone call thing or whatever, and he calls the clinic. He's like, can I talk to, I don't remember his wife's name, or girlfriend's name. They're not married, sorry. But they're like, yeah, she just went into recovery, so you're not gonna be able to talk to her for like an hour or so. So anyway, that abortion went through, and the demon did a little countdown in the thing before he ran out to make the phone call. So he's starting to think, okay, this is a little bit, I don't know, man. There's a point in the movie too where he basically says, I invite you to inhabit me. If you're really a demon and you can do all this crazy like possession stuff, come right into me. I invite it. And the demon looks a little frustrated. Guy's like, you can't do it, can you? Anyway, the demon ends up saying, I'm just a demon who values patience. What does that mean? I don't know. We'll find out. So that's that. Yeah, all around the conversation's really good. Like he starts asking the demon like stuff along the lines of like, what is your purpose? What's the point? Why are you just being evil for the sake of being evil? And he goes into this kind of long story short segment where he basically says, listen, the creator created us, and then he created you, and basically gave everything to you, cast us to the side essentially. We had no free will. My master, aka the devil, I guess, or Lucifer or whatever, gave us free will, so we value that. Whereas you guys, it's basically slavery. Like, you either worship or you go to hell or whatever, whatnot. That's a whole other deep conversation, so I'm not going to give my thoughts on that. But it was very interesting the way it was done. And yeah, basically he says that we're not doing it to hurt you, we're doing it to hurt him. Interesting. I mean, that kind of makes sense, though. I mean, because, like, why would they care? Why would a demon care about hurting a human? Like, if they're beneath them, like, who cares? But if you're hurting the one that hurt you, I mean, I get it. It's like emotional revenge or something. So it's kind of a neat point there. Then he keeps mentioning the carpenter, which I guess is supposed to be Jesus and whatnot, too. And he's like, yeah, that kind of foiled our plans a little bit there. And we thought it was over, but we learned that humans still wanted to be their own master. So we realized we still have a chance despite that little crippling blow there, which is also kind of neat. Oh, side note, the psychiatrist is an atheist, so so right away, like, it took him a long time to start thinking, okay, this is a little bit sounding legit here. So that was kind of another thing. And anyway, long story short, I guess it got too personal or something, or he figured, oh, this guy's too evil, you know, like, even if there's a demon or not inside this guy, he can't live. So he signs off on the execution, and they do execute him. But before that, there's some stuff that really makes him start thinking, and he's like, he's like, yeah, I chose the electric chair even though nobody chooses that. And he's like, well, why would you choose the electric chair? And he's like, oh, well, because the immense amount of pain, you don't die on the first time, your blood boils in your head and your eyes melt, and all this grotesque, like, explaining details about the electric chair, which, like, I'll be honest, I'm kind of surprised that that's still a method of execution. Like, whether or not you support execution or not, like, electric chair is brutal, man. Like, anyway, he says, yeah, he refused the lethal injection, the painless method, as like a final departing gift to Edward, who's the inmate who's possessed. I don't know if I said that yet or not, but so he's just basically being a dick, and he wants to inflict this last little bit of pain on Edward before his soul is claimed and sent to hell or whatever. And so that really started making the guy think too, like, what the fuck is it? Oh, and there's another part where he breaks his finger to, like, prove a point, and you can see him sweating. He's like, okay, so you're obviously trying to hide the pain, you know, like, this is some good theatrics here, whatnot. You broke your finger, that's great, but I can see you sweating in an obvious pain. And Edward / the demon, whichever it is like, okay, well, don't mistake Edward's body's involuntary reaction to pain to be confused with my being in pain. I feel the pain, but unlike Edward, I enjoy it. It's like, okay, that's a little sadistic. There's another part too. It's not really consequential, but I just thought it was a neat little line where he's like telling the story of, like, the fall of, like, Lucifer and his followers and stuff. And the psychiatrist is like, so angels. He's like, yes, I don't like that term at all, but it's the most accurate thing we can use at the moment. So obviously there's still a little bit of some tension there. Yeah, so that's essentially the movie. He goes and he gets electrocuted, and it takes 2 tries, and the psychiatrist is in the witness room because he's like, I just want to make sure I made the right choice or whatever. When the doctor finally announces that his heart stopped beating, they announce the death, and then the psychiatrist hears in his head, or no, okay, so yeah, before he's electrocuted, he says, my God, I'm horrible at this. He says, like, they said, do you have any last words? And he's like, yeah. Are you going to accept my master's offer? Oh, fuck. Yes, okay. So I just didn't explain a whole shitload of other stuff. So he wanted the psychiatrist to write a book about his story and whatnot. And that was kind of the deal. And he says, basically, my master is willing to give you, like, the world and everything in it if you do what we need you to do. And he's like, anyway, fast forward, he says, do you accept my master's offer? And he's in the witness room, and he just, like, very quietly shakes his head no. And there's another kind of sad part. Like, he's just being a dick to this Edward guy, because they ask for him his final meal, and Edward has control a little bit, and he's, like, really, like, freaking out because he knows he's gonna die, and it's not even his fault, really. And he's like, yeah, I want a double bacon cheeseburger and a chocolate milkshake and 5, and it's really important. Please don't mess it up. And he's, like, almost crying and stuttering. And the security guy writes it down or whatever, and as he's leaving, the demon kicks back in. He's like, you know what, actually, I don't want anything. I'm not hungry. He's just like, you sure? Yeah. So he fucked him out of his last meal too, which is like, that's so harsh. What a dink. Demons are dicks. Yeah, so that sums that up. And yeah, so he says he dies, and then when they announce the death, the psychiatrist hears in his head, you should have taken my master's warning, or my master's offer, or something like that, something along those lines. And he starts freaking out. He's like, what the fuck? What? This is real? This is legit? And it dawns on him just before the demon takes over his body that this is legit. He is a demon, and he was possessing this guy, and the guy died and was being forced to do all these things that he was in prison for by this demon. And the demon takes over his body and grabs one of the detectives sitting beside him in the witness room's gun and starts aiming it at people, and it's like fucking, I should have had like a prop gun. That would have been so good. Here we go. It's not a gun, but we're gonna use my crossbow. So he's like, okay, everyone freeze. I don't know why I busted this out, but anyway, that was like more effort than was required. Why do I want a crossbow, you ask? Don't worry about it. So yeah, so he starts pulling the gun on everyone, and then he's like, the demon's like, okay, now I'm gonna kill you, sucker. And he puts the gun under his thing and pulls the trigger, and nothing happens. Or sorry, he puts the gun under his trigger, and then the psychiatrist is like, oh, I think he said, oh God, please help me, or something like that. I'm not 100% sure, but pulls the trigger, nothing happens, and the guards tackle him, and it turns out that ballistics confirmed that he tried to pull the trigger 3 times. Bullets went off, and they tested it in the range, and it worked perfectly fine when they fired it. So that was interesting. So is it the demon just fucking with him and making him think that he's gonna die, and then making him not die, so he's got to like suffer thinking about shit? Or was his little prayer to God, if that's what it was, did God actually intervene? Nobody knows. Yeah. And then they cut to a little part at the end, which I think if they would have like left it, well, I mean, you hear about the ballistics and all that in the interview. So he goes to do an interview with like a podcast or a late night talk show or something, and he's explaining, and he ended up writing this book that the demon wanted him to write. And he explains that I didn't just write the book, I rewrote the book. Instead of being a message of, you know, this is what you should do, this is how you should go about it, you know, this is our message, I wrote it as a warning to stop people from going down that path or whatever. Anyway, I don't think that part was really necessary. It didn't hurt the movie really, but it seemed to go, like, if they would have just stopped it at like the guards tackling him, I think it would have maybe been a better ending. It was good nonetheless though, and like I said, the little ending segment of him like going on the talk show or whatever didn't ruin the movie by any means. And then the very end, as he's leaving, he sees a homeless person digging through the trash, and he gives her $20, and she turns like in awe, like thank you, and then stops and like deadpans like, did you miss me, in the demon's voice, and then that was the end of the movie. So I mean, I would have put that in like a Marvel like style post credits end scene. I think that would have worked a lot better, but regardless, movie was still fun. I think Rotten Tomatoes was like mean to it for the critics, but like the fans loved it. So I'm with whichever side of it, whether it was the critics, the fans who liked it. I liked it. Yeah, like I said, the ending, I mean, it just seemed sort of tacked on. But I get it too. I get why they put it there. Like I said, it didn't like ruin the movie by any means. It just seemed like it just filler extra stuff that wasn't. It didn't further the intensity of the movie really that much. Well, in the interview, he says that the demon no longer had control of him after that one incident in the witness room or whatever. So, and then I guess the voice saying, you know, miss me, meaning like, yeah, he's still around. You're not rid of the demon, and that was the thing. So I get it. Anyway, going on too long about that. What am I gonna rate this? So that's a tough one because it was solid. Again, I'm just thinking of the last two movies I rated, and like, I don't think it was quite as good as Late Night with the Devil, but I feel that it was slightly better than Tucker and Dale. I'm gonna give it an 8.3. Yeah, there you go. That feels good. An 8.3 for Nefarious. So yeah, thanks again to my buddy for the recommendation. That was a good movie. And yeah, I guess we'll leave it at that.